What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta be real with you guys. I don't see too many massive problems when it comes to the battle pickups within Battlefield 6. I actually quite enjoy some of them. Obviously, the railgun is a little iffy, but the minigun, my goodness, I've been shredding with it. But again and again and again, I see online people complaining, saying that these things are absolutely garbage, and they're not good, they're horrifying, and, they need a ton of work. And even when I'm playing in-game, you'll see in this footage right here, nobody picks them up. I got like the minigun 5, 6, 7 times in a row or something like that without anybody contesting me. So it's definitely very clear that players do not like these things, and to them, it's pretty bad. So in today's video, I wanted to kind of bring everything to light and give some, pros and cons to these weapons to maybe try to improve them a little bit more. I kind of understand that they shouldn't be stupidly overpowered, because if they are, then it will just change the tides of the whole battle. They need to be able to strike a balance between the two, but at the same time, where it's currently at, it seems that nobody likes them, and it's a bit rough to get the hang of. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, before going dive on deep, if you guys are interested in more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the bell. I post twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I do stream Monday through Saturday. Although, today on Friday, I will not be streaming, but I'll be back on Saturday playing maybe either Arc Raiders or Battlefield. So, if you guys are interested, you can find a link to my Twitch channel down in the description of this video. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, as I stated, we have to be able to find a balance for these weapons, because if they're way too overpowered, they'll become way too dominant. And I'll be honest, I don't think we want people only fighting for power weapons. This isn't like, Halo or something like that, or Gears of War, where the majority of your combat is around these power weapons, right? A lot of the combat is around playing a good medic, playing a good support, playing a good engineer, hopping on flags, helping your team. So we don't want them to be so overwhelming that that's, the only spot people go, and they'll completely ignore flag locations and holding dominant spots for their squad just to go pick up a power weapon. We don't want it to, be at that point. But at the same time, I'm telling you right now, the amount of times I could pick up a minigun is absolutely absurd. Nobody in any lobby ever contests me, and it's very strange. And everybody that I ask about these weapons always say the same thing. They are garbage. And it kind of shocks me, because you'll even see in this gameplay, I shred with this minigun. The minigun might be one of my favorite things in this game right now. It absolutely demolishes opponents. It's a little confusing at first, because obviously the recoil pattern goes down instead of up, which is actually realistic apparently. I've been reading through some comments, and I didn't know this personally. I'm not too, knowledgeable on a lot of weapons. But apparently, since the gun is down by your waist instead of it being tucked in on your shoulder, a lot of the time, regular weapons, they're tucked in on your shoulder, so the recoil goes upwards, coming out of the muzzle. But with the minigun, it's down by your waist, so a lot of the time the recoil actually points downwards. Just kind of a cool fact to throw out there. So I understand why they have it this way, and I think it's kind of a fun learning curve to master the weapon, having to change your mind around the recoil pattern to be used to it. But not enough people are using it. People ignore this thing all the time. They claim it's horrifying, when for me personally, it's really solid. And it can't just be because I'm on mouse and keyboard, because I know a lot of mouse players as well who will gladly avoid the minigun around every single corner. They just don't want to pick it up. So it's a problem across the board here. I try to think of a handful of ways to improve this thing, like, maybe having a faster fire rate than it already does, which I think might be a little too crazy, or reducing the wind-up time just by a little bit while you're hip firing. I think if you ADS, it's instant, but if you're hip firing and running around, you have to wait like a second or so until it actually starts shooting. I don't know. I don't think that's that beneficial either. I think it's really good where it's at. The only possible thing that I can think of to make it a bit more enjoyable is potentially reducing the recoil just by a tad. Not a lot, because the damage that this thing puts out is absurd, and as I stated, you'll see in this gameplay, you will mow down just endless waves of opponents. And I just think another reason why people don't like it is because they try to take it out of its range. They'll try to shoot medium to long range with this thing, and you gotta be real, it's not that outstanding. You can get a little medium range shots going on here, but 9 times out of 10, you want to take this into buildings or, tight flags and just hold down strict lanes where you could just mow down waves of enemies. That's where it truly shines. But I think a slight reduction to recoil will make it a tad bit more appealing, because for a mouse player like myself, it's not too shabby to control the recoil, but for a controller player, it's a whole different story, because you can only pull on your analog stick so hard compared to a mouse. If I lower down my sensitivity, let's say I want low sensitivity so I can have better accuracy, I can still swipe my mouse down, or I guess upward since it's counter recoil on the minigun, extremely fast to maintain that recoil. Whereas if a controller player wants lower, sensitivity so they can track a little bit easier, they're also going to have a harder time pulling that recoil down because their sensitivity is really low. They can't, swipe the analog stick faster and it magically, does the job. No, they're on a set sensitivity, which means if they want to be able to control it better, they have to up their sensitivity to make it a lot faster, which will destroy their base gunplay. So, I think the best way to get more people encouraged to try out the minigun is to reduce the recoil just by a slight little bit. And I think that will be enough. And if not, then so be it. It's everybody else's fault for not using this thing. I'll gladly pick it up every single time it spawns, and everybody else can just ignore it while I mow down 5, 6, 7, 8+ enemies at a time. But ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to go over and discuss the railgun within Battlefield 6. This is the one that I'm a bit more iffy about. As I stated, the minigun, I will shred for days with this thing. I love it. But the railgun, on the other hand, this thing is, I'm kind of in between on it, because it's not like a powerhouse against vehicles. You still have to hit vehicles a decent amount of times. If you have engineers backing you up shooting RPGs, yeah, you can actually, pluck off a decent amount of damage. It almost does like, a little under a quarter of damage each time you hit a vehicle, so it can still help, you know what I'm saying? It still puts in a little bit of work, especially against helicopters. But it doesn't do enough, if that makes any sense. It just feels like you're kind of wasting your time with it. So I have a few things I could think of, but I'm not really saying that these things should be implemented. I would more so want to hear your guys' opinions on what I'm listing, and then give your takes on what should be done to this overall thing. First and foremost, maybe you should do a bit more vehicle damage. Instead of having it more so focused around, one-shotting infantry, make it so like when you pick this up, you want to actually take on tanks and you want to take on helicopters, and you can do at least a little bit over a quarter of damage to a vehicle, so you can feel like you're really, being truly impactful, and you don't need 50 other engineers behind you backing you up to make it feel like you're actually putting a dent in on that vehicle. Maybe that would be a good introduction to make people want to pick up the railgun a bit more. But even then, it's something so awkward about this gun that is just kind of turning people away. I saw one comment on Reddit, though, that I thought was genius, and this is what I think should be done to the railgun. I don't think anything else should be touched. As I stated, maybe an increase to damage on vehicles, but if this is the only thing that is done, I think this will be phenomenal. Changing how it actually fires. Currently, right now, you have to hold down on the trigger, and then it will automatically fire when it fully charges up. So basically, if you hold it down, you wait 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then bam, it blasts off at anybody that you could possibly see. Again, one hitting any infantry, no matter where you hit them on the body, and of course, it can trickle some damage off on vehicles if you nail it in the right spot. But for me personally, and I think a lot of you guys as well, it makes it very awkward to use the railgun, because you have to time it perfectly, and if you don't time it perfectly, you have to let go of the trigger, and then when you let go of the trigger, you have to wait another long 3, 4, 5+ seconds until you get it charged back up again, and then if they get behind cover again, or you lose sight, then you have to let go of the trigger again, and then build it back up. What this individual suggested on Reddit was to basically hold the charge. So when you hold down that trigger, you have to wait, again, 3, 4, 5 seconds until it gets fully charged up. But it doesn't automatically shoot until you let go of the trigger. I think that this would be genius. I know some people out there will say, well, how do you cancel it then? You know what I'm saying? Well, maybe you could just YY out of it, switch to your secondary, and then, pull back out this railgun, and it'll be good, and it won't be firing or anything like that. But it might add a little bit of a skill gap, because again, then you have to be ready. You can't just charge it up whenever you feel like it. You have to be ready to fire. And on top of that, it'll be more enjoyable to fire, because I can just hold it down. I can, keep it ready and charged up. And when I'm ready to actually take that shot, then I'll take that shot when I'm ready for it. But right now, how it is, it's a complete timing game. You must nail that timing perfectly, or else it's going to kind of fumble and crumble. And against other sniper rifles, you just kind of think to yourself, well, why bother? If I could just use like a mini scout, which is absolutely ridiculous in this game, and I could just, pluck domes at any range without having to hold down on the trigger to charge it up and perfectly time it, why would I bother using this? And at the same time, it doesn't do that much damage to vehicles compared to shooting them with like RPGs or something like that. So once again, you think to yourself, why should I pick that up over just running an engineer and taking out a tank? There's just not many reasons to use it compared to the minigun, where, as I stated, you could take it indoors, on a flag, close quarters, hold down lanes, and you'll mow enemies down and clear the way for your whole squad. The railgun, on the other hand, it's struggling to find its purpose within the Battlefield 6 universe, and I think that right there would make it a lot more appealing. Just holding down the trigger, and when you're ready to fire it, you let go of the trigger, bam, you take your shot. This way, you don't have to time it. If you want to set up on a spot and just hold a location, you can, and you'll be ready for any enemy that you need to engage with, but it's still not going to be that get stupidly overpowered because you still have to charge it up, right? You can't just run around like a sniper rifle and just, plop shots whenever you feel like it. You have to charge it, prep yourself, and get ready to take down enemies. I think one of those two would be perfect. Either up the damage on vehicles of the railgun, or just allow us to, hold the trigger down without it forcing the shot out, and then when we're ready to shoot the railgun, we let go of the trigger, and bam, the shot is taken. Other than that, if they don't do anything to this thing, I guarantee the railgun will be the least used weapon in this game. But for the minigun, as I stated, I still don't think it needs a buff. I think the minigun is absolutely outstanding, but I can see where people are struggling. Like I said, I think it's more so, although I think mouse and keyboard players are still not liking it, I think this is more so focused towards controller players not liking it, because it's awkward to maintain the recoil on it. It's so heavy on a controller, and as I stated, it's not like a mouse, where if I need to pull down harder, I could just, quickly swipe my mouse, and then I get a better pull down rate. On a controller, if your sensitivity is low, then your sensitivity is low. You're not going to be able to pull down as fast. And if your sensitivity is too fast, you might not be able to maintain your accuracy with regular weapons, which means on controller, more than likely, if you wanted the minigun to work, you're going to have to change your sensitivity all the time. You pick it up, you go into your settings, change your sensitivity to be faster so you can maintain the recoil, pattern of it, and then when you lose it and you die, you have to go back to your settings and change your sensitivity back down to low so you can keep your accuracy with your other main weapons. That's too much work. That's too much of a hassle. A slight recoil buff, I think, would go a long way for controller players when it comes down to the minigun. And then, of course, for the railgun, as I stated, just allow people to either A, just charge it up fully without it shooting, and then when they let go of the trigger, it fires. Or B, I still think this is the better alternative. Make it better against vehicles. If this really is the way that they're pushing, it's very simple. Just reduce the ammo count. Make it, like 3-4 shots that you're allowed to have. Or, 3. Just make it 3, okay? And just allow it to actually pack a really heavy punch against a vehicle. And of course, if they want to pick and choose, if they do want to take down some infantry, they can do so. They can waste some ammunition on infantry. But I think the way that they're handling it right now is that they want people to, kind of mix match what they want to shoot. Whether they want to shoot infantry with it, or if they want to, pluck a tiny bit of damage on vehicles, and you'll have enough ammo to do a little bit of both. But I think they should make you choose. I think it should be powerful against vehicles, less ammunition, and if you want to waste that shot on an infantry player and get the one-shot kill, by all means, go ahead and do so. You're allowed to. But it means you have less ammo to take down an actual vehicle itself with, the high damage output that this weapon would actually have. I think that would be great. Like, think of like the Spartan laser, for like Halo, for example, where you're charged up. The thing is a demon machine, though. You know what I'm saying? It's a long charge up time. Yeah, it shoots automatically, but, when it does fire, you mop everything. Doesn't matter if you hit an infantry player and destroy them, or you hit a vehicle, it's going to do so much damage to that vehicle. But here, it's a long charge up, but it, tickles the vehicles. It still does damage, but it mostly tickles them. So it makes people think, why even bother, right? Use an RPG instead, and for players, use a regular sniper rifle so you can get more shots off without having to wait for the long charge up time. There has to be a in-between point for this railgun, and I think that would be it. Increasing vehicle damage, lower ammo count, and make people pick and choose how they want to handle their shots. But ladies and gentlemen, as I always say on this channel, I'm not an all-knowing genius. I'm just some random dude on the internet that wants to share his opinion on how all this stuff is going down here. As I stated, I don't think the minigun really needs that much work. I actually enjoy it a ton, but from what I can tell, online, people despise these, power pickups. And from just playing the game, I mean, like I said, you guys have seen the gameplay, nobody picks them up. I've gotten the minigun every single time it is spawned. With how many players in a singular lobby, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Something doesn't feel right to people. And I hope that DICE takes a little bit of time to find a balance for it. Is it something that I could see DICE rushing out the door? No, not at all. There's a lot bigger fish to fry right now, including netcode, audio, so on and so forth, to make sure the game runs smooth. But is it something that I want them to keep on their radar for the future to make sure, the players can be happy? A quality of life feature change? Yes, I hope that they keep this on their radar, and sometime down the road they can make these changes to make sure that players will enjoy these power pickups, because I want to see more. I don't want them to end here. I want them to be popular, and I want to see more and more introduced into the overall Battlefield 6 experience, because I think it's a nice little shakeup, from using your regular guns. And then again, as I stated, it's nice to fight over them if you actually fight over them, because as I stated as well, nobody does. It's a free pickup for me every single time. So I think something needs to be done to encourage a bit more players to want to actually give them a shot. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. I post twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, I'll link that channel in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.